The valley was quiet, surrounded by tall green cliffs and filled with the steady sound of rushing water. At the center of the valley stood a great waterfall, its endless stream crashing down into a deep pool. Villagers lived nearby, but few dared to go close to the waterfall. They whispered old tales, saying strange echoes came from behind the water and that shadows moved when no one was there. For most, the place was only a source of fear. For Arun, it was a mystery waiting to be solved. Arun was a young explorer who had always been curious about things others ignored. While others looked away from the falls, he felt drawn to them. He often sat at the edge of the valley, watching the water tumble down and wondering what secrets it might hide. He carried with him a small scanner, a device he had built from spare parts, able to measure metal traces and unusual energy signals. He never expected much, but each reading gave him hope that the valley held something more than stone and water. One warm afternoon, as the sun touched the cliffs with gold, Arun decided to scan the rocks near the waterfall. He walked carefully along the slippery stones, holding the device close to the cliff. The sound of the water roared in his ears, making it hard to think, but his eyes stayed fixed on the scanner screen. For a while, the device showed only the usual signs of rock and soil. Then suddenly, the screen flickered. A sharp signal appeared where none should exist. Arun froze, checking again. The reading showed strong traces of metal, not scattered, but solid, as if a structure was hidden within the cliff. His heart raced. He looked at the wall of rock where the reading was strongest. From a distance, it seemed ordinary, but now, with his eyes sharper and his hands brushing across the surface, he noticed faint markings. They were not like natural cracks or lines caused by water. They formed patterns, almost like carvings, but smoother, straighter, as if shaped by tools far beyond the villagers' knowledge. Arun stepped back, his breath uneven. He could not believe what he was seeing. If the scanner was right, and if the carvings were real, then something man-made or perhaps more than man-made was hidden behind the falls. He thought about the old stories the villagers told, the ones they passed down for generations. Perhaps those were not just tales to frighten children. Perhaps they were warnings. Still, Arun's curiosity was stronger than his fear. He marked the spot in his mind and sat near the edge of the pool, staring at the curtain of water. His thoughts raced with questions. Who had built this? Why hide it here, behind a place most would never dare to enter? And most of all, what lay beyond that hidden wall? The sun began to set, and the valley slowly grew darker. The villagers called him back, warning that night was not safe near the waterfall. Arun nodded and returned, but his mind stayed behind. That night, as he lay on his simple bed, the roar of the waterfall filled his dreams. He imagined doors of metal opening, glowing corridors inside the cliff, and secrets waiting to be uncovered. The next morning, Arun returned with more tools. He studied the area again, taking notes and drawing sketches of the carvings. At times, the markings seemed to shift under the light, as if they were more than stone. His scanner pulsed with stronger readings when he moved closer, suggesting that the hidden structure extended deep behind the cliff. Though he worked alone, Arun knew he could not keep this secret forever. He needed help to go further. The waterfall was dangerous, and forcing his way through would take more than his strength. Still, he was careful. He told no one in the village, afraid they would dismiss him or worse, forbid him from returning. He thought of one person he could trust, Myra, a close friend who shared his hunger for knowledge but also kept him grounded when his ideas ran wild. That evening, Arun found Myra sitting near the fields. He told her about his discovery, showing her the sketches and the readings from his scanner. At first, she shook her head, saying it was too dangerous. But as she studied the markings, her doubt faded. She agreed the patterns were unnatural, too precise for chance. Her eyes lit with the same spark of wonder Arun carried, though her voice still carried caution. Together, they planned to return the next day, to push closer to the roaring water and test if the hidden structure could be reached. As the night grew quiet again, Arun lay awake, his mind restless. The waterfall no longer felt like just a natural wonder. It was a gateway. Behind its endless flow, something waited. He could feel it, as if the valley itself was holding its breath. For years, the villagers had lived with fear of the falls. Tomorrow, Arun and Myra would challenge that fear. What they would find, neither could yet imagine. The morning sky was clear when Arun and Myra returned to the valley. The waterfall thundered as always, throwing a fine mist into the air. The rising sun shone on the rushing water, turning it into a curtain of silver light. To the villagers, it was only a dangerous place to avoid. To Arun and Myra, it was the beginning of a path no one had walked before. Arun carried his scanner, ropes, and a small lantern. Myra brought a sturdy pack with food, water, and a thick cloth to protect against the spray of the water. She was cautious, but once she had agreed to follow Arun, she committed fully. Her eyes, though calm, showed the same spark of excitement as his. They stood at the edge of the pool, the roar of the falls filling their ears. Myra raised her voice to be heard. "If we step inside, there may be no turning back," she warned. Arun nodded. He knew her words were true, but his resolve was steady. "If we do not try, we will never know what lies beyond," he answered. Together they moved forward. The water hit their bodies with force, cold and heavy. It was difficult to breathe under the crashing stream, and each step demanded effort. But they pressed on, leaning against the torrent until they reached the rock face behind. Myra gripped the rope to steady herself, while Arun searched the smooth wall with his hands. Then he found it the strange carvings he had seen before, half hidden by the flowing water. He pressed the scanner against the surface. The device hummed louder than before, its small screen glowing brighter. Myra looked at it and shook her head in disbelief. "This cannot be natural," she whispered. Suddenly, the wall gave a faint vibration under Arun's hand. Startled, he stepped back, but the carvings lit with a pale glow. Lines spread across the rock in patterns like veins of light. The sound of the waterfall seemed to soften for a moment, as if the valley itself was listening. Myra gasped. "It reacts to us," she said. The glowing lines shaped themselves into a door, smooth and metallic, set deep into the cliff. There was no handle, no hinge, only a faint hum as if the structure was alive. Arun reached out and placed his palm against it. The metal was cool, yet not unwelcoming. At his touch, the hum grew louder. For a long moment, nothing else happened. Then the door shifted with a deep rumble. A seam appeared in the center, and slowly, the panels slid apart. Cold air rushed out, carrying the scent of stone and something older than time. Behind the door stretched a dark tunnel, its walls faintly glowing with thin lines of blue. Myra stared into the opening, her breath unsteady. "This should not be here," she said. "This is not built by our hands." Arun's eyes shone with determination. "It is here for a reason," he replied. They stepped inside. The roar of the waterfall faded behind them, replaced by silence that felt heavy and deep. The walls of the tunnel were smooth and metallic, unlike anything either had seen. The glowing lines on the walls pulsed gently, guiding their steps forward. Their lantern was hardly needed, for the strange light was enough to see by. The tunnel sloped downward, cool air brushing against their skin. Every few steps, Myra glanced back, as if to make sure the door had not closed behind them. Her voice was soft. If the villagers knew of this, they would never believe it. Arun nodded but kept moving. His heart beat fast, not from fear, but from wonder. After what felt like many steps, the tunnel widened into a circular chamber. The ceiling arched high above, covered in more glowing lines that connected like stars in a sky. In the center stood a raised platform, its surface smooth and reflective. Symbols moved across it, shifting shapes that neither of them could fully understand. Myra stepped closer and touched one of the walls. "It feels alive," she murmured. Arun bent over the platform, studying the symbols. He had never seen writing like this. It seemed to move when his eyes moved, as if testing his mind. The silence of the chamber was broken by a low vibration. The glowing lines grew brighter, spreading across the room. Arun and Myra froze. A voice, deep and distant, echoed around them. It was not in their language, yet they felt its meaning inside their minds. The words spoke of guardianship, of a resting place built long ago, and of a test for those who dared to enter. Myra's face grew pale. "We should not be here," she said firmly. "This place is not for us." Arun shook his head slowly. "Or perhaps it is," he replied. "Perhaps they left it for humans to find." The chamber shook slightly, as if the very walls were alive. The platform in the center began to rise, revealing another passage leading deeper into the unknown. The glowing lines on the walls pulsed faster, like a heartbeat. Arun and Myra exchanged a long look. Fear and wonder battled in their eyes. They had found more than they had ever dreamed. What lay beyond this passage could change everything they knew. Together, with steady steps, they moved toward the deeper path, not knowing what awaited them, but knowing they could not turn back. The new passage stretched before Arun and Myra like a road carved through the heart of the mountain. The air inside was cool and dry, carrying a faint metallic scent. Their footsteps echoed softly against the smooth floor. Thin streams of blue light ran along the walls, flowing like rivers of energy. It felt as though the mountain itself was alive, guiding them toward its hidden heart. Neither of them spoke for a while. The silence pressed down heavily, broken only by the hum of the walls. Arun's thoughts raced. He had dreamed of discovery, but nothing could have prepared him for this. Myra walked beside him, her hand brushing against the wall from time to time, as if to remind herself it was real. After a long walk, the tunnel opened into a vast chamber. The sight made both of them stop in awe. The space was larger than any hall built by human hands. The ceiling rose high above, shaped into arches that glowed faintly like a night sky filled with stars. At the very center of the chamber stood a great structure. It looked like a tomb, but unlike any they had ever seen. Its base was stone-like, dark, and solid, yet veins of shining metal ran through it, giving the impression of strength and beauty combined. The surface was carved with symbols that shifted as they looked, forming patterns that seemed to move between familiar shapes and strange ones beyond understanding. The tomb did not feel dead or forgotten. It felt waiting. Myra's voice trembled slightly as she whispered, "This is not human work." Arun nodded slowly, his eyes wide. "But why does it feel like it is watching us?" he said. They approached carefully, each step echoing through the chamber. Around the tomb lay tablets, half stone and half metal, leaning against the base. Some were cracked with age, yet the markings upon them glowed faintly, as if no time had passed. Arun bent down and touched one of the tablets. The surface was cool, but the carvings pulsed gently under his hand, reacting to his presence. He pulled back quickly, his heart racing. Myra knelt beside another tablet. She studied the glowing marks, her brow furrowed. She could not read the language, but her mind felt strange as she stared. Shapes twisted into half-meanings, as if the tomb itself was trying to teach her. "It speaks, but not with words," she murmured. "It is showing ideas, not letters." Arun's eyes flicked from the tomb to the walls of the chamber. He noticed that the glowing veins in the stone seemed to connect directly to the central structure, as though the entire chamber was built to feed its power. The more he looked, the more he felt that this was not just a resting place. It was a machine, a monument, and a message all in one. Suddenly, the ground shook slightly beneath their feet. The glowing veins brightened, filling the chamber with a soft light. Arun and Myra staggered back, eyes wide. The tomb pulsed once, like a heart beating. A deep hum filled the air. Myra grabbed Arun's arm. "We should leave," she said firmly, her voice tight with fear. But Arun shook his head. His eyes were fixed on the tomb. "No," he replied, "this is why we are here. This is what was meant to be found." As they watched, the surface of the tomb shifted. Symbols moved and rearranged into clearer forms. Myra squinted at them, and slowly, she began to understand. "It is speaking of guardians," she whispered. "Of something sealed inside, something that watches and waits. It says only those worthy may pass beyond this point." Arun felt a chill run down his spine. "Worthy of what?" he asked quietly. Myra shook her head. "It does not say. Only that a test will come." The chamber rumbled again, stronger this time. Dust fell from the high arches, though the walls themselves held firm. The tomb gave another pulse, and a faint crack appeared along its side. Light spilled out, sharp and blinding, forcing them to shield their eyes. When the glow faded, the crack sealed itself, leaving the tomb whole once again. The chamber grew quiet, as if nothing had happened. But both Arun and Myra knew the silence now carried a warning. Arun's voice was steady, though his hands trembled. "This is no tomb of the dead. It is something alive, something that waits to judge us." Myra turned toward him, fear and wonder mingling in her expression. "If that is true, then we are standing in the middle of a trial we do not yet understand," she said. They stepped back slowly, their minds heavy with questions. The tomb was not only a relic of the past. It was a message across time, meant for whoever would find it. It was a promise, or perhaps a threat. The chamber walls glowed faintly again, as if breathing. The air itself seemed alive with expectation. Arun and Myra exchanged a long look. They both knew they had gone too far to turn back. Whatever this place held, it had already chosen to awaken for them. And so, standing before the ancient tomb hidden behind the waterfall, they prepared themselves for what would come next. The chamber was quiet, but the air felt heavy with expectation. Arun and Myra stood before the glowing tomb, their eyes tracing the shifting symbols that seemed alive. The soft hum of the walls filled the space, vibrating in their chests as if the mountain itself was speaking to them. Myra knelt beside one of the glowing tablets, trying to understand the strange symbols. Her fingers brushed the surface, and suddenly, the carvings seemed to shift faster, almost reacting to her touch. Shapes formed into clearer patterns, showing images rather than words. A figure appeared, a guardian of some kind, part light and part machine, standing tall and powerful. Around it, Waves of energy rippled, spreading out from a central point that pulsed like a heart. Arun's breath caught. "It is showing a guardian," he whispered. "It says that someone must prove themselves to enter further." Myra nodded slowly. "It is a warning," she said. "It wants to make sure only the worthy can go beyond. This is not just a tomb. It is a test." A sudden vibration ran through the floor, stronger than before. The hum grew louder and deeper, and the light from the tomb seemed to fill the entire chamber. Arun and Myra felt a warmth spread across their faces, like the sun breaking through clouds, though there was no heat. It was a strange, calming energy that carried a sense of purpose. Then the symbols on the tomb shifted again, forming a circle of light on the floor. Myra stepped closer, careful not to break the pattern. The light expanded slightly, as if waiting for them. Arun bent down to study it, noticing tiny carvings within the circle. They looked like instructions, but also like a challenge. Whoever entered this space would face trials, the tomb seemed to say. Myra took a deep breath. "Arun, do you understand what it is asking?" she asked quietly. "It is not a question of strength. It wants courage and wisdom. It wants teamwork and heart. It is asking if humans are capable of more than just surviving." Arun looked at her, determination in his eyes. "Then we have to try. If this tomb is here for us, we cannot turn away. We have to show that we are worthy." As they stepped closer to the circle, the floor hummed beneath their feet. The light grew brighter, and the symbols on the tomb shifted once more, forming a new pattern. Myra could feel a connection to the shapes, a strange understanding that went beyond words. It was as if the tomb was speaking directly to her mind. The chamber began to change. The walls seemed to stretch higher, the ceiling glowing brighter with the pulse of energy. Shadows moved along the edges, shifting like they were alive. Arun and Myra held hands, grounding each other as the space around them transformed. Then a voice echoed through the chamber, deep and resonant. It was not spoken in any language they knew, yet they understood it. The guardian's voice said, "Those who enter must prove their courage. They must show their heart. Only those who act with wisdom and unity may continue." Myra's eyes widened. "It is testing us," she said. "It is not trying to scare us. It is seeing if we are ready for what lies beyond." Arun nodded. "Then we must stay calm and think clearly. We cannot panic. We must work together." Suddenly, a faint light appeared in the center of the tomb. A small object rose from the platform, glowing softly. It was smooth and metallic, shaped like a key but larger than anything they had ever seen. The Guardian's message was clear: this object was the first step of the test. Myra reached out cautiously, feeling the hum of energy ripple through her fingers. The moment she touched it, the tomb pulsed again, and the floor beneath them shifted slightly. Symbols appeared on the walls, forming a path deeper into the mountain. Arun and Myra exchanged a determined look. They had passed the first part of the challenge. The tomb had accepted their courage and their willingness to face the unknown. Now it was asking more. The Guardian's voice spoke again, softer this time. "The trials ahead will measure not strength, but spirit. Those who falter may be turned back. Those who succeed will be granted knowledge beyond understanding. Choose your path wisely." Myra's hand squeezed Arun's. "We cannot go back now. This is our chance to learn, to prove ourselves, and to discover what this place truly holds." Arun nodded. "We will face it together," he said. "No matter what happens, we stay united. That is what will make us worthy." As they stepped toward the glowing path, the chamber seemed to hum in approval. The tomb no longer felt like a silent structure. It felt alive, aware of their presence, and ready to guide them through the trials ahead. The first challenge was only the beginning. The Guardian had awakened, the tomb had revealed its warning, and Arun and Myra were ready to face the mysteries hidden behind the waterfall. The air in the chamber seemed to hum with life as Arun and Myra stepped onto the glowing path. The light beneath their feet pulsed gently, guiding them forward. Every step carried a sense of anticipation, and a faint vibration ran through the walls. The tomb was no longer silent. It had awakened, and with it, a presence that felt both powerful and watchful. Suddenly, from the center of the tomb, a figure began to rise. It was unlike anything Arun or Myra had seen before. Its form was tall and elegant, made of light and metal intertwined, shifting constantly like liquid energy. A soft glow outlined its body, and its eyes, though mechanical in appearance, seemed to look directly into their hearts. Myra gasped softly. "It is the Guardian," she whispered. "It has come to test us." The figure moved smoothly toward them, its steps silent on the glowing floor. A deep voice echoed in the chamber, not spoken aloud but resonating within their minds. "Those who enter must show courage, wisdom, and unity. Only then will the tomb reveal its secrets. Are you prepared to face what lies ahead?" Arun stepped forward, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "We are ready." Myra nodded beside him, her hand brushing against his for reassurance. The Guardian's eyes seemed to glow brighter, as if acknowledging their answer. Without warning, the chamber shifted. The floor beneath them tilted, and the walls moved as though alive. Glowing symbols floated into the air, forming puzzles that twisted and turned in 3 dimensions. The Guardian spoke again, its tone calm but firm. "Your first trial is of mind and perception. Solve the patterns, and the path forward will open. Fail, and you will be returned to the entrance." Arun and Myra looked at each other. "We can do this," Arun said quietly. "We have to work together." Myra nodded, and they stepped closer to the floating symbols. Each pattern seemed to react to their presence, shifting and twisting when touched. It was as if the tomb was testing not their strength, but their patience and teamwork. Hours seemed to pass as they worked side by side. Arun studied the symbols carefully, noticing connections and repetitions. Myra's observations helped him see patterns he might have missed. Slowly, the floating shapes began to align, forming clear sequences. The room hummed with energy as the first puzzle clicked into place. The Guardian's voice spoke again. "You have shown patience and understanding. The next trial will test your courage." Immediately, the chamber darkened. Shadows stretched across the walls, moving like living creatures. Strange illusions appeared, forming obstacles that seemed real. Some looked like deep pits, others like walls of fire, yet none could harm them physically. The challenge was to walk through without faltering, relying on trust in each other. Arun held Myra's hand firmly. "We move together," he said. "Do not let fear control you." Myra took a deep breath and nodded. Step by step, they advanced. The illusions tested their resolve, creating fears from the deepest parts of their minds. Arun saw visions of falling into endless darkness. Myra felt walls closing in around her. But every time fear threatened to paralyze them, the other offered support, a reminder to stay calm and trust each other. As they reached the end of the darkened path, the chamber brightened again. The Guardian appeared closer now, its form taller and more defined. "You have faced fear and relied on each other. The final trial is of heart. Choose wisely, for the decision will determine your worthiness. Before them appeared two glowing orbs, hovering above pedestals. One orb radiated light and warmth, the other a soft, cold glow. Neither came with explanation, yet the choice was clear. The tomb asked them to act not for themselves, but for others. Arun glanced at Myra. "We have to think about more than just us," he said. Myra understood immediately. "We protect those who cannot protect themselves," she said. Together, they reached for the warm, glowing orb. The moment their hands touched it, a wave of energy flowed through the chamber. The tomb pulsed, and the guardian's voice spoke once more. "You have shown courage, unity, and compassion. You are worthy of the knowledge and legacy hidden here." The illusions vanished, the puzzles dissolved, and the chamber returned to its calm, glowing state. Arun and Myra felt a sense of accomplishment unlike anything before. They had passed the tests, not by force, but by heart, courage, and teamwork. The guardian stepped back, its body glowing brighter. "The trials are complete. The tomb will now reveal its secrets to those who proved themselves. Remember, the knowledge you receive is a gift, but it carries responsibility. Use it wisely." Arun and Myra exchanged a look filled with awe and relief. The trials had challenged them in ways they had never imagined. They had faced fear, solved puzzles beyond ordinary logic, and made choices that tested their hearts. And they had succeeded together. The tomb seemed to hum in approval, its energy spreading throughout the chamber. Arun felt it in his chest, a deep connection to something far older and greater than himself. Myra felt it too, a sense of understanding and purpose that filled her mind. The guardian remained, watching silently, a protector of the knowledge and legacy contained within the tomb. Arun and Myra knew that this was only the beginning. What lay ahead would shape not only their own lives, but the future of everyone who might one day follow their path. Together, they stepped forward toward the heart of the tomb, ready to discover the secrets hidden for generations. The chamber glowed softly, its walls alive with patterns of light. Arun and Myra stood together, breathing hard after the trials they had faced. Their hands were still linked, a silent reminder of how they had endured. Before them, the guardian remained tall and shining, its form shifting between metal and energy. Its eyes glowed brighter than before, filled with a strange mix of judgment and respect. The voice of the guardian echoed once more, deep and steady, yet carrying a weight of finality. "You have faced the puzzles of the mind. You have endured the illusions of fear. You have chosen with your hearts. Yet one test remains. The greatest test of all. Will you sacrifice yourselves for others, or will you protect only yourselves? This choice will reveal your true worth." Arun and Myra froze, exchanging a troubled glance. They had expected trials of logic and courage, but this was different. This was not about solving puzzles or walking through shadows. This was about deciding what they valued most. The floor before them shifted again, and the chamber transformed. Images appeared all around, glowing like windows into another world. The village came into view, their home, the place where people lived in peace without knowing what secrets hid behind the waterfall. Children played near the fields, elders sat in quiet circles, and life went on without fear. But now, dark shadows loomed at the edges of the image, spreading slowly toward the village. Myra's breath caught. "It is showing us the village," she whispered. "It is in danger." The guardian's voice rang out. "You may choose. Seal the tomb and protect yourselves, keeping what you have found. Or open the tomb fully, release its energy, and save your people, though it may cost you everything." Arun's heart pounded in his chest. He looked at Myra, his eyes filled with urgency. We cannot choose ourselves. If this is real, if the danger is true, we have to act for the village. Myra's hands trembled slightly, but her voice was steady. Yes. If we turn away, then we are unworthy of this place. Humanity is not about one or two people. It is about protecting many, even at a cost. Together, they stepped forward, closer to the glowing heart of the tomb. As they did, a control surface appeared before them, shining with two clear paths, one marked with safety, the other with sacrifice. Without hesitation, Arun placed his hand on the path of sacrifice. Myra followed, placing her hand beside his. The chamber shook violently, and a surge of energy rushed through the tomb. The glowing veins in the walls flared brighter than ever, filling the space with blinding light. Arun and Myra held on, their bodies trembling under the force, but their decision never wavered. Then the guardian's voice thundered, filled with power. You have chosen not for yourselves, but for others. This is the true spirit of humanity. Courage is not only to face fear, but to protect even when all may be lost. You are worthy. The violent shaking slowed, and the light softened. The images of the village grew clear once more. The shadows that had threatened to consume it dissolved, replaced by waves of golden energy spreading outward from the tomb. The valley outside glowed with light, reaching across the fields and cliffs, wrapping the village in a shield of warmth and safety. The people outside, though unaware of what had happened, lifted their heads in wonder at the sudden glow that filled the sky. Arun and Myra collapsed to their knees, exhausted but alive. The chamber no longer threatened them. Instead, it hummed with a softer rhythm, like the calm heartbeat of a giant. The guardian stood before them, its form now more human-like than before. Its once sharp lines of light had softened, and its eyes glowed with something that felt almost gentle. You have proven the spirit of your kind, the guardian said. Strength alone is not enough. Knowledge alone is not enough. The true power of humanity lies in the will to protect others, even when the cost is high. Because you have shown this, the tomb will open to you. The tomb's surface shifted, revealing hidden chambers filled with strange structures, archives of knowledge, and artifacts of the builders who had come long before. The light touched Arun and Myra, filling their minds with glimpses of understanding. They saw images of distant stars, maps of galaxies, and records of ancient travelers who had left this legacy behind. Myra felt tears in her eyes. It is more than a tomb, she whispered. It is a gift, waiting for us to be ready. Arun's face was filled with awe. And now it trusts us with it? The guardian stepped back, its body beginning to fade into the light of the chamber. The trials are ended. The legacy is now yours. Carry it with wisdom, for what you do with it will shape the future of your world. Slowly, the figure dissolved until only the glowing veins of the chamber remained. Arun and Myra were left standing in the silence of the tomb, surrounded by treasures of knowledge greater than anything humanity had known. They looked at each other, their faces lit by the soft glow. Fear no longer filled their hearts. Instead, they felt a deep sense of responsibility. The tomb had tested them, and they had answered not for themselves, but for all. And in doing so, humanity had been judged worthy. The waterfall glistened under the morning sun as Arun and Myra emerged from behind it. The mist clung to their clothes, and the roar of the water filled their ears. But the valley no longer felt ordinary. A soft golden light still lingered in the air, a trace of the tomb's energy spreading outward. The villagers had gathered at the edge of the pool, drawn by the strange glow and the sudden calm that seemed to surround the waterfall. Arun and Myra stepped forward, hands still brushing against each other for support. They carried the knowledge of the tomb in their minds, the weight of its legacy pressing on their hearts. This was more than a discovery, it was a responsibility. The villagers looked at them with curiosity and fear. For years, they had avoided this place, calling it dangerous and forbidden. Now, their eyes were wide as they took in the two young explorers emerging victorious. An elder stepped forward, trembling. "What have you seen?" he asked, his voice shaking. Arun smiled gently, trying to calm him. "We have found something beyond imagination," he said. "Something that belongs to all of us, but it is a gift that must be used wisely." Myra nodded. "It is not a weapon, and it is not something to fear. It is knowledge left behind by those who came before us. The tomb has been hidden to test those who are brave, wise, and compassionate. We have passed the test." The villagers whispered among themselves, unable to fully understand the words but sensing the truth in the tone. The waterfall no longer felt like a barrier. Instead, it was a gateway, a bridge between the ordinary world and the mysteries hidden beyond. Arun looked out across the valley, imagining what humanity could do with the knowledge they had received. The tomb had shown them technologies and ideas that could change their understanding of the stars. They had glimpsed the legacy of travelers from another time, beings who had left behind lessons for those who were ready. Myra placed a hand on Arun's shoulder. "We must be careful," she said softly. "The knowledge is powerful, but it is also a responsibility. We cannot use it for selfish purposes. The tomb chose us because we acted for others. That is what we must remember." The villagers began to approach slowly, their fear replaced by curiosity. They could feel the energy in the air, a subtle warmth that reassured them. Children ran to the edge of the water, laughing as the mist touched their faces. Elders looked on in wonder, sensing that something important had changed in their lives, even if they could not yet understand it fully. Arun knelt near the edge of the pool, tracing patterns in the mist with his fingers. He felt a connection to the tomb, to the guardians, and to the history it represented. "This is just the beginning," he said. "The world beyond this valley is larger than we ever imagined. One day, humanity may reach the stars, guided by what we have learned here." Myra smiled. "And it will be because we face the trials together, with courage and heart," she added. The golden light faded slowly, leaving the valley bright and calm. The tomb remained hidden behind the waterfall, its secrets safe for the next generation who might prove worthy. Arun and Myra knew that their journey had changed them. They had discovered more than a hidden place, they had discovered the strength of their own spirit and the spirit of humanity. The villagers began to gather around them, asking questions and listening with growing amazement. Arun and Myra shared what they could, careful not to reveal all the details, but enough to inspire hope and wonder. The waterfall, once feared, now became a symbol of courage and discovery. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, Arun and Myra stood together, looking out over the valley. The wind carried the sound of the waterfall, steady and strong, a reminder of the trials they had faced. They had returned not only with knowledge but with proof that humanity could rise to challenges greater than themselves. The valley seemed alive with promise. Birds flew higher, the fields glowed green, and the villagers moved with a sense of purpose they had never known. Arun and Myra smiled at each other, understanding that the tomb's legacy was more than technology or wisdom. It was a test of the human spirit, and humanity had answered. With one last look at the waterfall, they began walking back toward the village. Their hearts were light, but full of determination. The secret of the tomb would guide them, and one day, it would guide all of humanity. The waterfall had hidden a secret for centuries, but now, that secret had chosen to reveal the truth. Humanity was capable of greatness, not through force, but through courage, unity, and compassion. And so, the valley returned to its quiet rhythm, but the lives of those who lived there and those who would come after would never be the same. Humanity had passed the test, and the world had been given a gift that would shape its future for generations to come.